and welcome to my video today. So today what we're going to be talking about is my 2024 TBR. I think it's really funny when people like make a 2024 TBR and then at the end of the year they look back on it. So I wanted to do that because I am the most terrible human being in the history of the world at sticking to TBRs. I will do whatever the hell I want. Past me does not matter. My present me will read whatever she wants. So I think it'll be funny to see if I can actually stick to a TBR. I've never done that before, but I feel like a yearly TBR might be more realistic than like a monthly TBR, because monthly I get a lot of feelings, but yearly I might be able to stick to it. So let's see what I am gonna read this year. I'm really excited. So I have it here. This is my reading journal. If you didn't see it when I set it up, it's like 2 videos ago. So yeah, the first thing that I want to read is To Gaze Upon a Wicked God by Molly X Chang. So this one had a lot of hype, especially because Molly X Chang is pretty big on book talk. She was also part of like a whole controversy that I'm not going to talk about right now. But basically her book is about a goddess that has the power of death. And she accidentally uses this power a couple times and people want her to use this power nefariously. And she kind of like discovering herself and discovering how to like use this power without being like deadly. And I think it's going to be one of the best books of the year. I think it's going to be a very exciting fantasy. So then the next one that is also a new one is Exit Black by Jill Pitkin. I believe this is a sci-fi where people are stuck in a ship and people start dying. So I think that's gonna be very interesting. And I love like a creepy alien type of science fiction where like people start dying. Is one of my favorite genres. So I'm really looking forward to it. And then the next one is Fangirl Down. This one is by Tessa Bailey, which is a romance author. I absolutely love her writing. And she's doing her first golf romance. And I am really into golf. And I really like playing. I really like not watching it as much. I watch the majors, but I don't watch like golf every weekend. But I'm really into golf in general, so I think this is the time to shine for like the lesser known sports. I'm really looking forward to like Formula 1 romances and golf romances. And yeah, I really want to read this one. And then The Last Murder at the End of the World by Stephen Turton, I believe. This one is one of my anticipated mysteries. This one is by a very well-known author that I really like. So I believe this one is about a guy who basically, a group of people that are living in an island after this big disaster happens, and they're kind of living in a dome that protects them against this fog that's killing everybody. But one day somebody gets murdered on the island, and because of like how the island is set up, if there's a murder, apparently like their whole security is gonna come down in like a week or something, and like but nobody remembers who did the murder because they lost all that information, and not even the murderer knows that they did the murder because they also forgot. Because this is also like science fiction mystery kind of situation, is like genre bending, and they're gonna have to discover who murdered this person in like a very short period of time. It has some of my favorite tropes. It's like a locker room mystery, so only a certain amount of people could have done it. It's time, so they have to figure it out. It has a lot of sci-fi elements. I think it's gonna be a home run, especially because I love this author already. I've liked everything they wrote so far, so I think it's gonna be a home run. And then I Want to Drink Drunkish by Stephanie Wilder. This is a non-fiction, and this one is about like people's relationship with alcohol, like trying to like not drink alcohol, and like where is this socialization of drinking coming from. And I think that's going to be very interesting. It's one of the non-fictions that I picked to read this year. I don't read a lot of non-fictions, but I wanted to do more of an effort to read more. And the last one is The House That Horror Built. This is the horror that I chose. And basically this is one that's about, I believe, like a house that is haunted because of a movie, and people are gonna film there, and like the set becomes I honestly don't know. I don't remember. And I'm not very big into horror movies, so this one is my like wild card pick. I wanted to pick something that was a horror to read this year. So let's see if I actually pick it up, because the synopsis is like not sticking in my brain. So those are the 5 actually 6 new releases that I want to read this year. So now that we're gonna move to my sequels that I want to read this year. So the next one I want to read is The Dark Forest by Liu Xing. He's the author of The Three Body Problem, and The Three Body Problem is one of my favorite books. I think it's like, no, I moved it over there. It's like over there. It's basically a science fiction about first contact with aliens that is kind of like, doesn't go the way that humanity wants it to go. It's like basically they're gonna come here and dominate everybody, and it is incredibly complicated. It is very sciencey. You have to be focused. You have to pay attention. It's a translated from Chinese translation, and it's about, the first book is about this guy who's living his normal life, and one day he gets like recruited for the secret society that apparently all the scientists keep dying and they keep committing suicide because they discover this big mystery, and he goes into the mystery and it kind of like devolves into like this wild thing. And apparently the second book is even like more universe expanding. It's not only gonna be taking place on Earth, it has a big time jump. But again, everybody that reads this book says that the second one is the best one, and the reason I haven't picked it up is because I'm really concerned, because I don't love it when sequels have like a huge time jump, because I'm already attached to the characters and I feel like it's almost like starting over in a lot of ways, and I don't love it. But I know that this series is very well loved, and people that I trust has told me that the second book is even better than the first book. So I am gonna read it even though I'm very nervous about it and I don't know if I'll like it. The next one is Psycho Academy by Jasmine Moss. The Psycho Shifter universe was one of my favorite things last year. It's an Omega-verse romance with this. The first 3 books are about this girl who's kind of like not known for having any powers, but one time she discovers that she's an Omega, which means that she is one of the most powerful people in this world. So she goes to train into this academy, and basically she discovers that she's like super powerful, and 3 guys fall in love with her, and like the story is amazing. Like, it's one of those things that it is a smutty romance, and it is like a fantasy smutty romance, but I don't know, there's something charming about it. There's something fun, there's something fast paced, there's something addictive about these books. And I read all 3 of them in a week, like 5 weeks, like somewhere like in the fall of 2023, I read all of those books in a week. It was like the first time that has happened to me since I was like a teen. So I was really excited, but the next series, because it's not the same series, it's like an offshoot, is following a completely different character, but it's in the same universe, and I do not like when that happens. Again, I form very like strong attachments to characters, so when you are selling me something in the same world but following a different character, unless I already super love that character, I'm not necessarily gonna be interested. I want my characters that I know and love. I don't want to follow other ones, and that might be something personal with me. I know some people love like companion novels, but I'm gonna get over it and I'm gonna read it because I trust Jasmine Moss to do a fantastic job. And the character that we're following, it was not my favorite, but I can grow into her. I feel like a lot of times you just have to grow into a new character. So let's see how it goes. And then I'm reading The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I don't know how this make it into the list because this is not a sequel, but I thought this was gonna be very interesting because Leigh Bardugo obviously wrote the Grishaverse and Six of Crows and a ton of other stuff that is really good. And this one is a completely different series for her, and is following like something in Spanish culture. And I'm not very familiar with the plot, but I'm super interested in anything Leigh Bardugo writes, so I'm gonna read it. Okay, and then I'm gonna read Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. I have not read anything by Ali Hazelwood yet. I know that's kind of like sinful in book talk because like everybody has read everything that's made for her. But honestly, I first heard that a lot of her stuff is like Adam Driver fan fiction, and honestly I could not care less about that man. I do not know why people are obsessed with him. He is the most not even generic looking, he's weird looking to me, and I do not find him attractive. So because of that, I was not interested in a lot of her stuff. But this new book that she's coming out with is about 2 food scientists that apparently like work together, and one of them is actually like bought the company that the other one works at, and now they have to work together because One of them is like the principal scientist, so she can't really leave the company, but she doesn't get along with the other one, and they don't necessarily agree on all the moral issues. And it's kind of like an enemies to lovers, a forced proximity, co-worker romance. And if you don't know, I'm a food scientist. That's what I do in my day job, and my boyfriend is actually a food scientist too. And we kind of had like a little like, we met in school, but we had like a lot of like romantic tension in school, and I thought it was really cute that this is very similar to my love story, so I decided to give it a chance, even though hopefully it's not Adam Driver fanfiction, because I will cry if you make me read about that man. So yeah, I am really looking forward to it, and I will give it my full review as a professional food scientist. I will be looking for scientific accuracy, so Ali Hazelwood, do your freaking homework. And the next one is Final Offer by Lauren Asher. I realized that I was missing one book in that series that Lauren Asher wrote. I've read, what are they called? Terms and Conditions in fine print, but I never read the Final Offer. This one is about the Dreamland Billionaires series. So the Dreamland Billionaires are basically like in a fantastical world now, like the Walt Disney's like heirs, and they all gonna inherit this big fortune, but when the guy died, they left like very strict things on their will that the billionaires had to do in order to acquire their inheritance. And in the first two books, we follow the first guy whose task was to like come up with this presentation to get the parks back on track, and in the second book, we follow this other brother that his task was to get married. And in this one, in the third book, we're following the next brother, and his task is to get together with his baby mama, basically. And I think I put it off because this guy is basically also has some addiction issues. I don't love second chance romances. They're not my favorite. So honestly, out of the three books, it sounded like the least one that I would like. But you know, I want to give it a chance, so I'm going to read it this year. And the next one that I want to read, that's a sequel. I want to read the sequel to Red Rising, Golden Sun. I love Red Rising last year, so I want to read the next one. And Golden Sun, Red Rising is about a guy who lives in Mars that's very oppressed, and he's basically working day after day after day to mine Mars for this like particular like substance that will help humanity terraform Mars, because humanity is basically on Earth, like everybody's like dying because of overpopulation and all this stuff, very like dystopian world. But he does a series of discoveries that kind of turns his world upside down, and I'm not gonna spoil it, even though like it's on the back of the book. I thought it was a big reveal because I don't read the backs of books, and I also somehow managed to not be spoiled for this big twist for like many years. So I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but it is amazing, and I think I just really enjoyed it, so I want to read the next one. The next book that I want to read is Daydream by Maple Hills. This is another new release, but it's a companion novel to other series that I previously loved. It is part of, I don't know the name of the series, but it's part of like the Icebreaker Wildfire universe. And in this one, we are following, I believe it's Henry that we're following, and he was one of the best ones in Icebreaker. He's just like a cute guy and a friends that live in college, and apparently he's gonna fall in love with his tutor. And if you haven't read Icebreaker and Wildfire, I totally recommend them. They're like very, like they're hard-hitting romances, but they're also cute and fluffy, and they're about found family and friends and hockey. I just really loved those books last year. They're very endearing to me, and since Hannah Grace got an editor and she's being traditionally published, I really saw a jump in quality between Icebreaker and Wildfire, so I hope that she just keeps getting better, keeps improving her writing and honing her skills, because she is an incredible writer, and I probably will keep reading whatever she publishes. Okay, the next book that I want to read is The Box in the Woods by Maureen Johnson. This is another series that I kind of left unfinished. She writes the books in the Truly Devious series. I thought that the last one, the one that I read, The Hand on the Wall, was the last one, but I missed one book that came out when I had like my big hiatus in book 2. I missed a book that came out, so I really want to read it. This is about Stevie, she goes to this very gifted school, that basically has a weird curriculum where you can study whatever she wants and you can follow whatever special interests you have. And her special interest happens to be like crime, like investigation, like more like cases and that sort of stuff and documenting it. And this school is famous for having one of the most famous cold cases that never got resolved, and she is fixating on like trying to solve that mystery. And you follow all 3 books. It's kind of like mixed media. You follow a couple different like timelines. They're all really good. They do read a little young. They are young adult books, but you know, like, I've already read all the series, so I feel like now I need to know what's going on in the next book. Okay, and the next book that I'm going to read is another sequel for the book that broke the world, which is the sequel to the book that wouldn't burn. I read this book for a book club that I am part of, and I would have never picked this book on my own because the synopsis sounded kind of boring, but it's actually an incredibly good book. So this is about a different world completely to ours, where this guy is living in an infinite library and he can't escape it. And then the other POV is this girl who's like born in this like dusty world where like there's very little civilization and there's only like one big city. And in this one big city there's a library that also happens to be infinite. Like nobody knows who created it, nobody knows how it got there, nobody knows how it works or how it's organized, but what we know is that basically it has like a lot of books and a lot of knowledge. So she becomes a librarian in that library, and things started going on, and the 2 POVs start connecting, and we start discovering things. And what really made it so addictive and why I really want to pick the second book is one of those books that you can really tell that the author wrote the entire trilogy all at once and then spaced it out just for release purposes into 3 books. But like the last book left us off like in such a cliffhanger that I must know what happened. Please tell me what happened. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna pick this book out whenever it comes out. I think it comes out in March. Okay, and then the next one I want to read is Magnolia Parks by Jasa Hastings. I know next to nothing about this book, even though it's like the most popular book on Book Talk. I feel like everybody that has ever recommended this book to me on Book Talk, they just tell me to read it and they don't give me a synopsis. So I think it's very much like Gossip Girl coded. It's about rich kids that fall in love. And I just think I'm going to pick it up this year, and I'm going to tell you exactly what it's about, even though right now I still don't know. Okay, and this one is specifically a Reagan book recommendation. It's Malice by John Gwynne. Again, this book I'm not super sure about what it's about, but it was one of the most hyped books, fantasy books last year by a lot of booktubers, and I really want to pick it up to see what all the hype is about. The next book that I want to pick up, the next couple books that I want to pick out are backlisted titles from a couple years ago, or classics that I really want to pick out. So the first one is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This one is part of her series where she does retellings. This one's about Achilles, and she does the most incredibly job at retellings. I read Circe by Madeline Miller, and in this one apparently Achilles is like a gay man, and it's gonna have like some of those like subtext, and it's gonna be very exciting, and I really hope that it's good. The thing with Madeline Miller is that her writing is very flowery, but because it's very flowery, it's very hard for me to really connect with her characters. So this is also kind of like a second chance for me, because in theory I should love her books, but I have not loved one yet, so I want to see if this one's gonna be the one. Okay, so the next 5 books that I want to read are just classics, and I'm not gonna tell you what they're about because they're pretty popular. They're classics for a reason, so I'm just gonna name them. So I'm gonna read Persuasion by Jane Austen. Sorry, Persuasion by Jane Austen. I've read Emma, and I've read Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, and I actually really enjoyed both of those books, even though they're a little convoluted for me and sometimes very hard to read. I really do enjoy them, so I want to read Persuasion. And I'm probably going to work myself through some other Jane Austen books this year. And the next one is Brave New World. That's another classic. And then Jane Eyre, The Vanity Fair, and The Catcher in the Rye are going to be the five classics that I tackle this year. And yeah, I think I'm going to enjoy all the books that I'm going to read. Let's see how many I actually read. the fact that I put them in my little book journal that I see every day is probably going to help me remember to read them, but I can't promise anything, and that's going to be the interesting thing about this video, so we can rewatch it at the end of the year and see how many books I read. Okay, bye guys!